What is up, guys? Arnold Painter here, back again, and this time I finally bring the deck profile that I've been raving about so much, which is my anti-meta deck. And I will say that this deck does take a good amount of skill to utilize, as for like every other anti-meta deck in history. So if you do decide to try this deck out, and trust me, it's really fun, please have patience and try to be creative with your plays. One last thing that I do want to say before I start the deck profile is that it is not always necessary to get rid of your hand so you can have a fresh new hand of cards for your next turn. Sometimes it's more smarter to keep a card or two depending on what the card is, so you can have it just in case your opponent goes all off on the following turn. So just keep that in mind. So here the first row of monsters, all the vanillas, pay no much attention to them. They're just tribute fodder and they are there for the spellcaster type, so it can keep my spells and traps live. Moving on to the more anti-meta card of the deck, this guy, Fiendish Commander Yam Ruler. If you don't know what the effect is, when this card is tribute summoned until the end phase of your opponent's turn, neither player can tribute summon level 7 or higher monsters. Also, it has a neat effect, just in case you summon it alongside other monsters and you want to protect yourself from Mirror Force. When it's a normal summon that turn, you can switch it to defense position. And afterwards, since I have a lot of attributes in the deck, I run the 7th Road Magician. It's a very good card. Not only does it provide your graveyard with fodder, but it also just gains a lot of attack because there's so many different attributes in this deck. And it just runs over anything. Blue Eyes, you name it. Now we're on to Windcaster Torna. That's another more or less necessary spellcaster. It's a very good clearer of the field. A lot of monsters that are tribute monsters have very weak defense. All of them have 1500 or less most of the time. So by pitching a card from your hand to the graveyard, you get to switch the position of your opponent's monster from attack to defense or vice versa. It has 1600 attack, and yeah, it gets rid of all those monsters no problem. It's such a fantastic card. And another card that I feel that is very anti-meta is Gravity Press Dragon. He has a fantastic effect that you discard a card, you target a monster on your opponent's side of the field, and it lowers its attack and defense by 700. And like I mentioned before, a lot of the tribute monsters have low defense, and a lot of them have mediocre attack as well. Okay, so from here on forwards, a lot of these cards are very anti-meta, so I'm not even going to mention that anymore. We have Mask of Valos. His effect reads, if you discard a card from your hand to the graveyard, you can target a level 6 or lower monster on your opponent's side of the field, and its original attack becomes 1500. This card is great for getting things like Blue Eyes, getting rid of Fiendish Commander Yam Ruler, which are like the only two cards at the moment that have very high defense points. So I only run 2, and of course he's a spellcaster, so you know it's part of the support for the deck. One of my favorite cards in the deck is Sonic Jaeger. The cool thing about it is that it has no requirement, and the effect is your opponent gains 1000 life points and this card gains 1000 attack. Very simple stuff. Thunder the Lightning I really like. By discarding a card from your hand to the graveyard, you can target a monster on your opponent's side of the field and it loses 300 attack. Pretty self-explanatory, and aside from that, it gives you graveyard. The only reason these guys are even in this deck is to provide me a 40 card deck, and just because they are spellcaster type. That is it. My other favorite card of the deck is Mystic Dealer. He's a spellcaster type. His effect is once per turn you can discard a spellcaster from your hand to the graveyard, you draw 1. I love this card so much because it speeds up the deck and it adds graveyard as well. And then I have these other 2 tech cards at the end. Defensive Dragon Mage. It's here mainly because it is a spellcaster, and also its effect, you can discard a monster, a spellcaster, or a dragon from your hand to the graveyard, and then you choose a monster on your side of the field and it cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. And the opponent's card effects area in the text is very important because as I've been playing a lot, there's a lot of spellcaster type decks out there and they are very fond of this trap card, as am I. It's a Mirror Force, so you gotta protect yourself from it since there's no other way of protection at the moment. Didn't mean to skip Magical Stream. It's just here, MST, when you have a spellcaster on the field. And I'm only running 2 right now because the meta is still building, but it does seem like I would end up running 3, and that's why I have the other one in my side deck. Dark Liberation, Mirror Force. You shuffle back 4 spellcaster types from your graveyard, and you destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters. And last but not least, Current of Sparks is just good to have because that's the only card right now at the moment that decreases the attack of opponent's monster, and it's a trap card. Here we go with the side deck now. It's not even completed, and the reason being is because there's not a lot of cards to add to my side deck at the moment that would complement the deck. But and in due time I will fill out the caps. And here we have another copy of Fiendish Commander Yam Ruler. The only reason it's in the side deck is because just in case I want to turbo it out when I'm playing against a dragon type deck, it is there, and that is really much it, honestly. And here we have another tech card, Whispering Fairy. I like to side deck this against the spellcaster types because I would hate for them to have this live. So I just pitch a card, return two useless monsters that are non-tribute or whatever, and then their Mirror Force is not working anymore. And here I have another form of MST. It's Hammer Crush. It's more generic. You discard a card, you destroy a spell or trap on your opponent's side of the field. Just in case you don't get to see your magical streams firsthand and your opponent always happens to have a face down, I like to side this deck in so I could have more access to them as fast as possible and get my combos going. Wind Spirit Blessing. This is also for dragon type decks, since I could potentially just use his guy's effect, any monster effect that decreases the attack of someone on your opponent's side of the field, and dragon types are really beefy. I just activate Wind Spirit, discard a card, and target my spellcaster and negates 1000 attack until the end phase. And then last, Magical Stream. It's another F form of MST. Why not? So there you guys go. I hope you guys like this deck profile, and I hope you guys get to try it out. And if you do happen to try it out, please give me feedback on how you like it, what would you change, or what is your preferability from my side deck into main deck, or other cards that I haven't that I didn't describe in this video. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, and I will see you guys whenever. Laters.